Today's video is going to be a Will I Buy It, and this is the kind of video in which we sit down and talk about the newest makeup releases, analyzing whether or not we want to get them and why. Hello everybody, my name is Anya, and I basically have a YouTube channel on which I talk about makeup, and I try to analyze like different aspects of the industry. I just love talking about makeup and artistry in general, so if you're interested in any of that, my channel is of course down below, but I do these kinds of videos once a week every Sunday, and this video is inspired of course by Samantha March, but I love doing these videos because it enables me to sit down with you guys and really have like an honest, open conversation about new makeup releases from a huge variety of brands, from indie to mainstream, from well-known brands to those brands that are not so well known, and I love looking at these releases as objectively as possible because I want to make sure that I'm getting makeup that I really truly love. By the way, if you're new and if you're interested in finding out where you yourself can hear about the newest makeup releases, I have a few Instagram accounts that I'm always looking at for sources and photos and all that kind of stuff, and I always put those Instagram accounts down below in the description box, so if you haven't already checked them out and you want to find out about new makeup when it happens, that's a really good place to look. Also, speaking of Instagram, if you're interested in seeing some of my colorful makeup looks, I do have my Instagram account down there as well. It is Anya. I'll put it on the screen so you can see it, and I also post Instagram photos on my account a lot. I tend to do a lot of like super colorful makeup looks, and those photos are always on my Instagram, and I also do colorful makeup tutorials on that platform as well. I use a lot of IGTV, so if you're interested in seeing how I create my makeup looks, you can check out my IGTV as well, which I will also put on the screen if you're curious. But with that being said, let's just get into this video because we have a lot of stuff to discuss. First of all, I want to mention this palette right here. This is from the brand Bombshell Cosmetica, and this is their Yummy Banana Split palette. So this has already launched, and this is pretty much what it looks like. I love colorful eyeshadow. You guys know this. I wear colorful eyeshadow almost exclusively on this channel, but what I have not really been inspired by lately would be what I and many others tend to call rainbow palettes. What a rainbow palette is basically when you have like a whole bunch of different colors placed, sometimes less haphazardly than other times, but you have a whole bunch of different colors placed in a palette, and basically it's supposed to be like a rainbow format. So you have essentially a whole bunch of colors. There's no really set color scheme except for a rainbow color scheme, and the reason I don't tend to like that kind of palette is that these kind of palettes in the colorful makeup world, if you will, are really common. I myself have so many palettes in my own collection that I classify as rainbow palettes, so whenever I see a release like this, I think, okay, it's a rainbow palette, so therefore I already have palettes similar to this in my collection, so do I need it? Absolutely not. So this is why I tend to stay away from palettes such as these. I think that if you're a beginner to colorful makeup, if you want to build up your collection, if you want to try out some new things, if you want to try out some new colors that you might not already have, this might be a great option. But if you're somebody like me who already has, say, 20 palettes that have colors similar to this, then this is not a palette for you. Let's talk about this release right here. This is a relatively like under the radar release, I guess. I haven't really seen a lot of conversation about it, but this is a release from e.l.f. They are basically launching some new liquid eyeshadows. These are specifically called their liquid glitter eyeshadows, and these are going to be $5 each. Now they have a ton of neutrals in here, but then again, they do have like that pop of blue and that pop of gold. I will say this, I was at Ulta the other day and I was so excited to see that a whole bunch of different drugstore level brands have been rolling out liquid eyeshadows. I am a big fan of liquid eyeshadows. I love wearing them. They're so incredibly fun. I love using them as toppers. I love how they can add like a layer of an extra dimension to a look. I think it's so cool and interesting. I just love experimenting with textures and finishes and all of that, and liquid eyeshadows allow me to do that very easily because you can use them as toppers and the effect is simply just beautiful. Personally, I feel like this is something that is right up my street. However, I do want to say this, I tend to like liquid shadows that have like unique kind of colors, that have like very interesting, I guess, finishes, and based on the swatches and based on the colors that I'm seeing with this release, I don't think that any of these shades are particularly inspiring to me, except for maybe the blue, and I already have several iterations of blue liquid shadow in my collection. Maybe not that specific shade, but I still have blue liquid shadows that makes me not really want to get this, if I'm being honest. Oh, this palette right here from BH Cosmetics. This is going to be the Crystal Zodiac 25 color eyeshadow and highlighter palette, and this will be available for $27. In the same release, they also have a 12-piece brush set that is supposed to be called Crystal Zodiac, and this is going to be available for $28. In my personal opinion, I think that like BH Cosmetics did like a big fat oopsie whenever they came out with their like curated zodiac palettes for like every single sign of the zodiac. I honestly felt like that was just boring because you had so many neutral colors in there. A lot of the color stories, if you like line them up side by side, look so incredibly repetitive. I'm kind of thinking I would have much rather seen just them come out with just this palette and just left it at that, because this palette by itself, it looks like a pretty interesting, colorful palette with a few neutral colors in there. It looks like a pretty digestible version of a Zodiac palette. It looks better curated than some of their other palettes they've come out with using the same theme. But at the same time, since they came out with so many Zodiac themed palettes this entire year, I'm looking at this palette and I just feel incredibly underwhelmed. I would have felt more excited if they had chosen not to come out with those boring, boring color schemes every single month. But yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, it's not terrible. It's actually a pretty interesting color story. Is this a rainbow color scheme? Kinda. But the colors that they chose are not like your typical cookie cutter shades. You know, like a lot of these colors do look a little bit unique. The way the colors are placed, it's a color story that you don't typically see. But at the same time, I feel like BH Cosmetics has really milked this zodiac theme, and that is completely boring to me. When it comes to the brush set, right now I'm not necessarily looking for any new brushes. I'm pretty happy with what I have. I'm just interested in what I have right now, and I'm not interested in paying, what is it? $28 for a new brush set. I'm really not. One of the brands that I have been really excited about this year so far has been Likely Makeup, created by the influencer It's Likely Makeup. Her name is Jordy. I just find myself constantly inspired by her artistry, by her work, and her releases so far have been very, very interesting, to say the least. I definitely want to make it a goal to try some products from her line in 2020, but this is her newest release. This is another blush palette. This is the Fairy Blush Palette, and like her first release, it's a blush palette with a lot of like really unique and inspiring shades in it. I really don't think I've seen many brands at all launch a green blush or a purple blush, but the fact that this is being done in this palette is super intriguing and super interesting to me, and I for one am really excited to see several of my favorite smaller influencers get PR from this brand, because they have managed to create a whole bunch of really unique and interesting looks, and I cannot wait to see what everybody's going to create with this palette. I don't know if I'll be purchasing this palette myself, because I actually do think that her first palette that she released, her first blush palette, might be more in keeping with where my style is now. Do I love getting ambitious color schemes and do I love experimenting? Yes, but at the same time, if I'm making a makeup purchase, I want to know that I'll be using it a lot at that stage in my life, and right now I'm not in like the mindset to be wearing green and purple blush. I might be at some point, but right now I honestly, like, I know that I will not be wearing that sort of thing, so that's why this might not be a perfect release for me, but I definitely am excited to see what people create from it. Okay, I also really want to talk about this Glow collection from Colourpop. They are launching a pressed highlighter in Champagne Bubble, a liquid highlighter, a flat kabuki brush, and a medium fluff brush. Okay, Colourpop, like I say this every single week because like they come out with products every single week. I'm just bored at this point by Colourpop. They haven't come out with anything that I've really been intrigued by in a long time. I really feel like they're milking their customer base in a way. I mean, I know it's capitalism. I know that they have to make money. I know that it's a business, and I know that for the most part people have pretty healthy levels of self-control, I would hope. So I would think that people are like evaluating whether or not they want to get certain releases from brands like Colourpop that are releasing things right and left. But at the same time, I just feel like at this point, like Colourpop is one of those brands that I find it very difficult to feel excited about them anymore. And keep in mind, I love Colourpop. I'm wearing Colourpop eyeshadow on my eyes today. Loving this look, by the way. And no, I did not film a tutorial on it, and I'm very sad about that. But like seriously, I love Colourpop as a brand, but I just, because of these like releases that have been coming like left and right a whole bunch of the time, I don't know, I'm just really bored by what they're coming out with. I really am. And this is no different. I already have so many highlighters. Moving on, let's talk about this really interesting release actually from the brand Blush Tribe. I have my Hasina 2 from Blush Tribe. I absolutely love that thing. It's amazing. And they're coming out with this selection of new cool titanium dust pigments. This is super interesting. I actually really like what they're coming out with. I love the swatches. Okay, I cannot wait to see what people think about these. I mean, I definitely watch a few people who are on their PR list, and I want to see people's opinions. I want to see people's reviews. Okay, see, here's the thing. I actually find it like a little bit more difficult from experience to work with like loose pigments whenever it comes to like eyelid application, you know what I mean? I actually prefer working with pressed pigments and shadows. If I'm hearing like a lot of positivity about this release, I might actually pick these up. We'll see. This is the brand Elijah Storm Cosmetics, and this is their Timeless palette. It's available now for $20.95. $20.95. And this is it right now. If you look at the shade names, you see a whole bunch of different icons such as Lucille, Crawford, Garland, Cash, Dean, Presley, King, Kennedy, Jackie, Marilyn. You know, I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with several of those names at least, because these are all icons in pop culture, of course. I like the theme of the palette. Do I like the execution of the palette? Not particularly. I just feel like there's so many like transition shades and so many neutral shades in here, and for me personally, when I see a color such as like a really bright green, I want to see other colors that will support that green reflected throughout the palette. And yes, you have like that beautiful turquoisey blue color, like that deep blue that looks so unique, but then at the same time you have that bluish color, the emerald color, and the yellow color, and then all of the other colors are so warm toned and many of them are so neutral. I kind of am struggling to think of what I can do to create a comprehensive look with this palette. And that's not to say that I'm not open to using like a whole host of palettes and shadows to create a look. But if I'm picking up a palette, I want to be inspired to at least be able to start a look using that palette and maybe add some other products to it. But at the same time, I want a palette to be able to inspire me to create with it, and this palette unfortunately is not doing that. So Too Faced has given us a sneak peek of their Natural Nudes palette, and this was inspired by their Born This Way foundation. Now, since this palette is inspired by that foundation, I get why it is so neutral, and I feel like this would work for somebody that likes neutrals. But do I like neutrals? No. So therefore, I find this palette a little bit boring. I'm just not into this palette, but I do get what customer they're going for. I feel like this palette probably will sell pretty well if they do it right. I don't know. It's like an interesting palette. It will be available February, apparently. So it's kind of like interesting that they're sneak peeking it so early. But yeah, I mean, it's a neutral brown palette, so you do have people that wear those kind of colors. In fact, a whole bunch of people wear those kind of colors. However, I do not, so this is not something that's interesting to me. Speaking of neutral palettes, there is a brand called Sugar Rush, and they are basically releasing the BU eyeshadow palette. This is available for $33 Canadian, and they also have a Fly Squad brush set consisting of three brushes available for $30. I believe that those are 3 brushes. I'm only seeing 3. So I'm assuming that they're launching 3. But it's like available for $30. That's kind of expensive, isn't it? I'm not sure. This is a palette that is, in my mind, a great deal more interesting than the Too Faced palette that we just saw. And it is certainly more interesting than the Naked Honey palette from Urban Decay. Because, I mean, yes, it is very, like, bee themed and it's kind of honey themed, but at the same time you do have some neutrals, but at the same time you do have colors in here that are quite obviously bee and honey inspired. So yeah, it makes sense in my opinion. And this is an interesting launch. Do I want it though? No, because like I've said so many times before, I'm just not into like neutral shadows right now. Another palette I want to talk about is from NARS. It's the Narcissist Afterglow eyeshadow palette. It's available for $78. And it's limited edition. Now, okay, when I first laid my eyes on this palette, I was very inspired. I thought it was super cool. But after like I start to take it kind of apart in my head and evaluate it color by color, I did realize that the reason I like this palette so much was A, because of the packaging, and B, because of that pop of pink. Other than that, this palette is not interesting for me, and the fact that it is so expensive also makes me not want to get it even more. Alright, so those are all the products I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and found some of these new releases interesting. Let me know if you have any opinions on these makeup products down below and I'll get back to you. But with that, thank you so much for watching and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye guys.